Welcome into the Barbecue Life podcast. I'm your host, Kurt Mueller, and we're joined today by Greg Bleich. He's with Bay Bridge BBQ. Man, that's a mouthful. Bay Bridge BBQ out of New Jersey, right? New Jersey?
Yes, sir.
New Jersey, coming all the way from the Northeast. You might be the first. Well, you might be the second one from New Jersey. We had Uncle Pig's barbecue pit on here a
Okay.
while back. So he's KCBS Team of the Year for last year. So anyway, well, take some time, introduce yourself, Greg, to the audience, and kind of let them know how you got on this barbecue journey.
All right. So basically, I always had to cook, right? Since I was 19, I lived on my own. I started cooking. I enjoyed cooking. I never took it to a serious level where I took classes on it, or I don't even follow recipes. So fast forward to let's say maybe 4 years ago, my buddy was actually getting rid of his smoker. So he asked me if I wanted it. So I took it because he was getting a new one. And he actually gave it to me because it wasn't working. And I didn't know that. You had to replace it was a what do you call it? Propane one. And I couldn't find the piece anywhere. So completely killed my dream of smoking for that moment. 2 years later, or well, no, a few years later, I ended up buying a house. So now I have a yard with plenty of room. I buy a smoker. Once I started, instantly addicted. YouTube, I'm watching Matt Pittman, I'm watching all these big time guys, and I'm trying to, replicate it. And it was a big struggle in the beginning, trying to get everything right. Because like I said, I never followed an ingredient in my life. And as soon as I got good, I was like, well, why can't I make YouTube content and teach people the things that I wish I knew from day one? Basically, I target beginners.
Right.
So, there's things that those videos are all great. Everything I watch on YouTube, amazing. But there's just a few things that could have been pointed out that weren't, where I feel like I would have progressed faster. So I instantly hooked, that feeling.
Oh yeah, I know it indeed. And just to be clear for our audience, Greg loves barbecue. Greg loves cooking, right? So you don't compete, you're not taking classes, you're cooking in the backyard, you're putting out content. And that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you're a restaurant owner, pro competitor, it doesn't matter what you are. Put out content, right? Because at the end of the day, you've got value to bring to the table, just like Matt Pittman does, right? He may have a couple million followers, doesn't mean that you don't have value to bring to the table. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. There's not a whole lot out there for beginners, right? There's, you got all these advanced things, you've got the Heath Riles, the Matt Pittmans, Malcolm Reeds of the world, and they know their stuff, I mean, they make great content. A lot of times though, sometimes for a beginner, if you're just getting into it, it can be super, super overwhelming, right? So let's talk about that for a second. So, for you've been doing it for about 4 years, right? So you got hooked 3 or 4 years ago. As a beginner, what were some of those obstacles, some of those aha moments, right, that you went through early on?
So I'm gonna start with a brisket.
Yep.
I didn't get it down until I've purchased a full brisket. Because I was a member of Butcher Box, and they would send brisket flats. And I couldn't figure it out. Aside from it being my first time, I really just had no clue what I was looking for. The first brisket I ever cooked, I had my brother and his fiance here. I was like, yeah, hey, I'm gonna slice it. When I tell you the knife couldn't get through it,
it's like shoe leather.
It was horrible. It was horrible. So, but then again, I watched so many videos. I'm like, all right, I'll chop it up, throw it into chili. It'll, so I got use out of it. But man, that was like so depressing because I thought I just put all this time and effort into it and I got nothing out of it. So I start with the full brisket, like say 2 briskets later, I cooked what I had, never worked out. And it was soft. It had the bend and it tasted good. I was like, all right, I get it now. You know, that was it. And then from there, you know, every cook after that just gets better and better. So
Yeah,
that was like my main like learning point to it.
I think, and that's a good takeaway because it's not often talked about very much, but a lot of people, and I get it, right? A brisket is a big piece of meat, right? It's 15, 17 pounds. Sometimes I've seen them as high as 24, 25, right? So one, it's a big piece of meat. Two, it can be expensive. I get it, right? So you don't want to shell out 150 bucks and turn that piece of meat into shoe leather.
That's the
What I
other
would
thing.
say, and maybe you agree with this, is if you're going to cook a brisket, learn how to cook the whole brisket. Don't start with the flat because I think that's actually harder than a full brisket.
Yeah, I wish somebody could have told me that from the beginning.
Right.
You
Interesting
know,
though, a lot of guys, a lot of these, pro competitors, that's all they're cooking is they're only cooking a flat. Now here's the caveat to that. They're cooking a Wagyu A9, you know, brisket
yeah,
flat.
different
So
ball game.
different different ball games. So that's the caveat to that. But I love what you said about one, not getting discouraged, right? Because yeah, you turned it into shoe leather basically. But two, you learn, hey, I need to cook the whole thing. Now, tell me this. So there's all kinds of different meats. We got ribs, we got brisket, we got chicken, we got all kinds of stuff. What's your favorite thing to cook?
Nothing beats now that I've mastered it. Nothing beats that brisket.
That's right.
Nothing. You know, and I love making pulled pork,
Hmm.
but the brisket's just top of the line. You know, it's number one. It's my
It
favorite
is.
because it's still, you know, it's still a little challenging because, you know, the pulled pork, it hits one section's hitting 203, finally the other section's hitting 208. It's all good because it's going to break down and everything's going to be good. It's going to be okay every time. But
Right.
the brisket, you know, you still have to put the effort into it, but you know what you're doing, so you're comfortable with it. So it seems easy, but to somebody newer, you know, it's going to be the hardest thing that they could do in the beginning.
It is. You got to remember too, for folks that aren't too familiar with brisket, it's two separate pieces of meat. It's two different muscles that are stacked on top of each other, flat and the point. Point, of course, is the fatty section. Flat is your leaner section. And I think it's important to understand that. I see a lot of questions online, and I'm sure you're on Facebook groups and all that. Folks ask, well, what's the internal temp? When do I need to pull it? When do I need to wrap it? And I think, and this is just me, I know it's unpopular opinion. Internal temperature is a guideline. It's not the letter of the law. And I think, a lot of folks, they really get too focused on that and they stop cooking with their eyes, with their nose, with their senses, right? They stop. So I think in the beginning, yeah, it's a great guide, to say, okay, it's time to wrap it or whatever, but you can get into trouble if you simply rely on internal temperature only. And one thing I learned hard way. So we had a couple thermometers fail on us, and we were dead in the water. Well, I had to figure it out, and then
Hmm.
I realized, what? I'm going to force myself to cook brisket without putting a temp probe in there at all, nothing. And
Really?
that's oh yeah. And so now I do probe it, but I'm looking for the feel of it. I'm not looking necessarily for the internal temp.
Gotcha.
um, because it depends on the type of meat you have, depends on your altitude. If you're in a higher altitude area, that's going to make a difference. Depends on what your cooker is. I had I don't know if you ever tried this, but if I need to cook a brisket fast, I can cook a brisket in 4 hours, 4.5 hours. I separate the point in the flat, cook it at 325. Now you got to watch that thing because
Uh-huh.
your margin for error is very small. But I guess my point is that for you as now I wouldn't say you're a beginner anymore. I mean, you've been doing this 3 or 4 years, right? So, and you've got a YouTube channel and all that. Speaking of, well, I'm thinking about it. How can our listeners connect with you on that YouTube channel and other social media
So
platforms?
so I'm on Instagram. That's where I started, and it's at Bay Bridge Barbeque BBQ, Bay Bridge BBQ, and that's where I'll post like reels and stuff of different foods I make. And then I have a link in there for the YouTube, but if you search Bay Bridge BBQ, I try to keep it all the same. On YouTube, that's where you can find the videos. I'm slowly coming out with more you know, it's not easy. I do have a regular 9 to 5 job. So again, this is all like for fun on the side.
Yeah.
But I did make a brand out of it. And I watched your show on branding. I
Good.
forget who this guest was, but I listened to that whole one. And I did make a brand out of it that was, you know, something for home. So Bay Bridge it's the Bayonne Bridge, right? I live in a city called Bayonne. We're 5 minutes, 10 minutes out of Manhattan, and we have this beautiful bridge that connects us to Staten Island. So it, you know, it's I didn't want my name in it. I just wanted, you know, something to because I still, you know, I grew up here, I live here, and so then I started I had, you know, on Fiverr for a couple bucks, somebody create a logo, and you know, this is the logo. It's the bridge, Bay Bridge BBQ. So I came up with a, you know, Shopify website to sell the brand. So if people wanted to buy shirts and hats, it's baybridgebbq.com. You know, I'll buy some shirts here to, you know, give out to some people and stuff like that. And but for anyone that if I ever do get any like real fans from outside of where I live, that they could just go on a website and buy the logo. And for right now, those are my main three forms of social media and branding, basically.
So we'll make sure for our listeners, we'll have all the links in the show notes so you guys can, you know, easily connect with Greg. But I think here's something you said is really important. That is branding. And yes, I'm big on branding. You know, I think it's even if you're just doing it for fun, right? Why not create a brand? I mean,
Yeah.
you're already doing the videos. You know, it didn't
Mhm.
take a whole lot of effort to get a Shopify, you know, website, put up a couple hats, some shirts. Doesn't take a whole lot of effort there. Why not create the brand, right? Who knows where it could go? You never know. I'm
Oh,
curious though, from
I
your,
LLC.
yeah, there you go.
I LLC. So
It's funny that I just did a solo episode. I recorded it yesterday, and one of the things I talked about was basically going from a hobby to a competitor to a business, to a viable, profitable business. And that's essentially what I've done. Is I've left behind a 13-year financial planning career to go full-time barbecue at this point now. But one of the things I talked about was creating an LLC right out of the gate. You know, get business bank account, work with a CPA, like treat it like a bona fide business, right? But I love what you said about branding because I think so many people in the barbecue world, they miss that and they might say things like, well, you know, it's just me in the backyard. But again, hey, if you're going to put out content, it doesn't have to be, you know, top of the line, you know, professionally produced videos. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars, you know, you could just use your phone. And I mean, phones are amazing these days anyway, right? I mean, they take great
that's what I
videos. I
do.
mean, yeah, we're like, I mean, you and I are literally recording a podcast on a phone, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's, I would just, man, I think that's great. I mean, I love hearing that, you know, you're creating that brand, you're creating that awareness, you're putting out content, and you know what you're offering is valuable. And that's the big thing. I think I would encourage anybody out there, if you love something like cooking or whatever it is, man, create some videos. It's so easy nowadays to get your name out there. How about, here's a question for you though, from a branding standpoint. What doors has your brand opened for you? I'm curious.
So let me see how to put this. So all right. So my one of my best friends, right? He played in the NFL 10 years. His name's Kenny Britt. He was on Good Morning Football for an interview 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
He wore my hat.
There it
And
is.
and you know, so I'm sitting here watching him on TV. You know, I watched him for 13 years on TV. That was no surprise. But now he's wearing my brand on his head in a, you know, live interview on Good Morning Football for the NFL Network.
Yeah.
And you know, and I didn't even ask him to. He texted me and he says, Bay Bridge BBQ is going to be on Good Morning Football tomorrow. You know,
That's
so
awesome.
just seeing that on the television, you know, was amazing because like that's my brand, you know, like that's
Right.
me. And it was just, you know, it gives you a really good feeling. So, and then go back to 2 weeks ago, we went to the Rutgers University game where he played, and he went on the field to do, you know, cheer the crowd up for you know, 30 seconds or whatever, and he had my hat. He had this the red one on, and you know, just seeing it's just awesome. Like, you know, and then I brought a brisket to the tailgate. Now everybody there is following my page, and it was all people I didn't know. And you know, they loved the food. They followed me on Instagram, on YouTube. So I started growing in that sense, because had I never had a brand, I was just Greg that brought the brisket.
Right.
You know what I
Greg
mean?
the brisket guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Or the brisket guy, because they probably forgot my name by now.
The brisket guy. That's right. That's right. It's that. I love what you said there too. I mean, like, at the end of the day, you never know where that can take you. You never know who's going to wear a hat, a shirt, and who knows? You might have a charcoal company reach out to you. You might have a meat company reach out to
Yeah.
you, a rub company. I mean, you never know. And speaking of rubs, one question I want to ask you: do you have any, intention to create your own rubs and sauces at some point?
So I made a spicy garlic rub. Um, I haven't really like I used it a few times. I haven't mastered it yet, but that's something that I'm working on slowly. But I want to one at a time. I can't. You know, you make rubs.
Yeah, I did three at once, and that was kind of stupid. So I did another three. So it was so stupid. I did three more.
So I mean, I just can't rush that. I need it to be, you know, I need to start with one, make sure it's good. It works for this. You know, this one works really well with chicken that I made, and you know, to go from there. So you know, it's the hardest part is I have a regular job, I have family, you know, family and
Sure.
all that stuff, and I love doing this too. So mixing it all in kind of slows up that process of, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to be a little careful, right? I mean, sometimes, especially when it comes to cooking and barbecue, people that are passionate about it, I mean, they're passionate, right? They're like dog people. You know what I mean? Like dog people will spend some money on their dogs now. You know what I'm saying? Like barbecue people are the same way. And you do got to be a little careful because it can get carried away with all the, gadgets and gizmos. And let's face it, Facebook and Instagram, the algorithm is very smart. It knows exactly what you want to buy. Even though you
Yeah.
don't know you want to buy it, it knows you want to buy
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I could use this.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to have that balance, I think, and that's always a struggle. At the end of the day, that's always a struggle, I think, for a lot of us. In my case, it was like I finally got to the point where, and really what did it for us was the Barbecue USA, and that, kind of exploded our social media presence. And I finally said, you know what? I enjoy this a lot more than financial planning. So I'm going to jump off the ledge here and see what happens.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey,
but
something
again,
something led me to your page. I found you. I don't even remember how, but I
right.
found it. I looked at it. I was listening to your podcast. So, you know, and you're South Carolina, right?
South Carolina. I just say Augusta, Georgia, because nobody knows where North Augusta, South Carolina is. It's right across the river. But I just say Augusta, Georgia. So everybody knows the Masters, right? That's the claim to
Yep.
fame down here.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, it's like you talked about, putting out that content, creating that brand, just putting out videos that are helpful. I mean, I think that everybody out there has got some value to bring to the table. And this idea that, well, I can't put out a video because I only have a couple hundred followers. That's self-defeating thinking right there, in my opinion. Right?
I agree.
Uh,
I agree.
Put it out there. You don't know where it could go. Right? So let's talk about sides. So I know you love brisket. Talked about chicken, working on that chicken roll. What about sides? Do you cook sides too?
Whoever's coming to my house, I make sure they bring a side.
Okay, you're like, I'm sticking to the meat. I'm protein only.
Yeah,
So now,
for now. For now.
yeah.
I want
What
to
now?
I want to get down the mac and cheese. I want to start there.
I've got a great. This is how awesome the Barbecue Brotherhood is. I was out in San Jose, California, in August, and the folks out there are just amazing. They were very welcoming. But anyway, I was hanging out at one of their homes, and I was watching the guy make mac and cheese. Super simple, right? Macaroni, cheese, and cream of mushroom soup. Literally, that's it.
That's it.
And he smokes it. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try that. And I tried it, and everybody loves it. Salt, pepper, garlic. That's all I season it with. But that's what's great about the whole brotherhood of the barbecue brotherhood. Whether you're competing, whether you're on a restaurant, whether you're just cooking in the backyard, you just like I said, I tend to believe more in simplicity, right? I think sometimes we overcomplicate things, and just keep it simple, right? Keep it
Yeah.
simple. How about ribs? Let me ask you this. so in New Jersey, what's the main protein, right? Because down here in Georgia, South Carolina is pork, pulled pork. What's up?
I,
What's like in Jersey?
I truly feel that New Jersey doesn't really have an identity in the barbecue world.
Hmm.
Um, so like I know a few people that have smokers in their yards, but it's like it's not spoken about. Until I started this, that's how I started finding out. Oh, you have one. Oh, you have one. Hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? What do you suggest for this? So it's really like I just don't feel like we really have a face. At least in the I live in North Jersey. At least
Yep.
there. Maybe South Jersey is different, but we do have some barbecue spots around where I live. Maybe like two, but it's really not too popular here. Unless you've spoken to other Jersey people that have an idea, but I can't even name one.
So I think it's kind of ironic that the team of the year is from New Jersey. The team of the year for
Really?
Kansas City barbecues. Yeah, Uncle Pig's barbecue pit. He won team of the year last year. He was on the podcast a couple months ago. Great guy. And I'm drawing a blank on his name. So if he's listening to the show, forgive me. But yeah, that's interesting, because I was going to ask you about ribs. What baby backs or spare ribs? What's your
Spare.
go-to? Okay,
Spare
spare ribs.
ribs.
Now, do you cut them down St. Louis cut, or you cooking the full spare?
I cut them.
Yeah.
I cut them down. Yeah.
To me, they fit better on the smoker, and I don't know. I'm just OCD. I like that squared off look. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably
So
comes from the competition side, I guess. How about beef ribs?
I haven't tried it yet. That's one thing I haven't tried. I want to try it soon though. I haven't gave it a go yet.
So it's funny. That's our calling card down here. Ironhead Barbecue. That's what we're known for is beef. Because I looked at the landscape and I said, wait a minute. There's a lot of pork and chicken. I get it. It's cheap. I understand why they do it. But I was like, I'm gonna take a risk with beef. But I heard somebody the other day, and they're dead on the money. They called a beef rib brisket on a stick.
Yeah.
It's basically what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, man, if you've already mastered a brisket, and maybe mastered is a strong word, but if you've got a brisket down, you're gonna have no problem with beef ribs. I would say though, get the plate. Don't get the 3 or 4 bone plate. Don't get the individual ones. Get the whole.
I'll
They
cook
call
it
it plate
one.
rib. Yeah. Cook one and then I slice it.
Right.
Now they're expensive. I mean, you're talking $8 to $10 a pound for something like that, and they are hard to find. Although in your area, I bet you're in a big metro area. I bet you call up a couple butcher shops. They can get them for you, no problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's literally brisket on a stick. And like I said, it's the nice thing about the beef ribs is you literally just cook them to death. I mean, because there is no point in flat. So it's like there's lots of
Yeah.
fat. And you just cook the heck out of them. How about
Yeah.
chicken? What's your go-to on chicken? Are you doing thighs? Are you doing quarters? What's your chicken?
Chicken, I've done a lot, drumsticks
Yep.
and wings mostly. Um, and I was so impressed how I remember the first time I made them on it, I was so impressed with how juicy they stayed.
Mhm.
Because you don't think, well, at least I wouldn't think with chicken on a smoker, maybe it would be a little dry. And they were so juicy, they tasted so good. And it was just a quick thing I did. And literally all I put on it was adobo, and they were phenomenal. My buddy's calling me asking, he's like, "Oh, what'd you put on this?" I was like, "Just adobo." Like he thought it was some secret recipe, and it was so good.
Now, what are you cooking on? What's your main cooker?
I have the Traeger Timberline XL.
Nice. So pellet grill, and I'm glad you brought that up because pellet grills have exploded in popularity, right? And I think it's a good thing, right? Now I know you got those old school guys, the stick burners and blah blah blah, but I think it's a good thing because I think it gets more people excited about it, gets more people cooking, and at the end of the day, if you're like me, like you got a job, you got family, you got other obligations. Like sometimes you don't want to stay up all night feeding a stick burner, right? With your hand feeding it.
That's the main reason for me.
Yeah,
Main reason.
yeah. So Traeger's awesome. Rectex down in this area. I mean, at the end of the Pit Boss. I mean, I've even hell, I won a Grant Champion in Billings on a Pit Boss and a Weber that I borrowed from somebody. So
I
I
have
think
the small Pit Boss.
yeah. So that's I'm glad that you're cooking on something that everybody knows Traeger. You can get them anywhere, right? And they are great. They're great smokers, and they put out great product. And I think if they're getting more people into the barbecue community, hey, it's a win-win. Now, when you were, this is important because I get this question a lot, like, what kind of smoker should I buy? And that's you're going to get 100 different answers, right? So did you like just fall into that, or did you just do a bunch of research? How did you decide on the Timberline 870?
So the Timberline. So my first one was the Pit Boss. I have the small 700 PB FB. I forget what it's called, but that I started with because Amazon Prime Day was a good price. So let me start with this. Now I'm slowly getting better. Now I need more room. So I specifically chose the Timberline XL because it had the most room. That's what I based my decision off of. So when people do ask me that question, because I've had it plenty of times, what do you suggest? Well, are you trying to cook for 4 people or are you trying to cook for 24 people? And that's kind of how I go by. Do you have the room for it? That's how I base it off of. How often are you going to use it? Do you cook a lot? I use mine just about every week. So that's how I come to the conclusion. What's your budget?
Yeah.
And that's how I give. I speak on Pit Boss and Traeger because I've had both, and then I give. You said Rectech. I name other ones. I've never used them, and that's how I go about giving my professional opinion.
There you go. How about pellets? So this is another loaded question, right? Because I've seen, I mean, you're gonna get 100 different answers. But what's your thought on pellets? Do you think the type of pellet actually matters?
I'm honestly, I don't.
Right.
I tell people to buy what's on sale. So Lowe's, where I live, has Pit Boss pellets, competition blend. They are usually always on sale. 40-pound bag, $15. Because prices here are nuts. In these Facebook chats, I see prices on smokers, on pellets, and I wish I could pay those prices because they're so low.
Yeah.
But up here, things are crazy. And again, my whole target for beginners, for people that have full-time jobs that can't commit to things like this, because the second you tell someone, how long did it take you to cook that? 13 hours. They're not going to do that. They're going to instantly shoot down the idea. Oh, I can't do that. Too long. No, you can though. So I add the price of pellets, and Pit Boss is a good brand, I think. So to get a 40-pound bag for $15 here, I think it's a good deal. And competition blends, a mixture. So I feel like you could cover all basic barbecue needs with that.
Exactly right. And I agree with you 100%. I've tried, lumberjack. I've tried pretty much every major pellet brand you can think of, cherry and maple, and I personally don't notice a difference. Now I know that I'm gonna have a bunch of people emailing me and texting me going, oh well, hey, I get it. I personally don't notice the difference. I'm with you. If I see it on sale, I shop at Sam's a lot. So if I see, something on sale, like they had Kingsford on clearance, the competition blend Kingsford on clearance for $12 a bag, hey, I'll take it.
Absolutely.
So exactly. I think a lot of that is marketing. A lot of that is, somewhat gimmicky, I think, a little bit. But to each your own, right? Whatever you cook with, just be consistent, with it. Because if you try to switch it up, it's one thing if you just cook it for yourself. But if you have somebody say, hey, Greg, can you cook for, we got a birthday party, can you cook for us? And you switch it up, I wouldn't recommend that.
No, not at all.
You want to do your testing on yourself, not on other people.
Yep.
Right?
The another thing I wanted to say was for the branding part, something else that I think is pretty cool is, people that I know obviously are on my Instagram feed and stuff. I'm randomly looking at stories and boom, there goes a shirt or a hat that they're wearing on their own time. And I think that's pretty cool. And like I appreciate every second of that. So the branding, aside from all these doors opening and stuff, like you get like like it makes you happy that like, wow, people are actually wearing a brand I created. People have tried my food, they like it. So, you know, that adds to everything else with it. It's a good feeling.
I was gonna say it's a good feeling. It gives you that incentive to keep going and keep learning, keep making mistakes, keep putting out that content. And I know we've talked a lot about branding and content on this episode, but I can't emphasize that enough is just put it out there. I mean, it's free to create a YouTube channel. It's free to create an Instagram page.
Mhm.
Now, well, some might say it's costing you in other ways, but I'm talking about monetarily, it's free.
Mhm.
Create it and put it out there, and who knows where that could take you. Next thing you know, you got an NFL, buddy of yours wearing it on national TV, wearing your hat on
Yeah.
national TV. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so as we wind things down, I always like to end the show with some parting words of wisdom, right? And I know we're talking really, we're gearing this episode really towards beginners that are just getting into this. So, from your standpoint, from your experience, what you've learned along this journey, what are some of those parting words of wisdom you can share with those people?
So I think you hit it on the nose with the branding part being important because of the doors it opens. So do we got enough time for me to give a quick story?
Absolutely, by all means.
So my wife and I fly to Vegas to surprise our friend who's getting married, right? And I Google top barbecue spots. So this place comes up called Soul Belly Barbecue. So I said to her, I want to try it. Is it on? We literally went to Vegas for like 40 hours.
Right.
Like it was a quick trip, it was a surprise, last minute. So she says, is it on the strip? I said, no. She goes, then no. I said, all right, fair. Because I'm coming back in July with my brother and I'll just do it on my time then.
Right.
We're 2 hours early to the wedding because we can't stay in a hotel no more. It's on the same block. Meant to be. Go there. Order the basics. I ordered the brisket, the burnt ends, maybe something else. Phenomenal, right? I do a quick lookup on it. So Bruce Kalman is the chef and owner. Bruce Kalman is on TV shows, all this stuff. So I said to the waiter, "Is he here?" Yeah, he's over there. So I go introduce myself. Hey, I'm Greg Bleich. I run a barbecue page for fun, Bay Bridge BBQ, this and that. Where are you from? Jersey. Where? I never get the second question ever. North Jersey. He goes, he grew up 30 minutes away from me and he went to the culinary school in the same county as me. Owns the barbecue place in Vegas.
In Vegas.
So, hey, I'm coming back in July. You think we could do a video? Absolutely. I have a 30-minute video on my YouTube page on him teaching how to trim and cook a brisket.
How about that?
He was on TV 2 weeks ago winning a show.
Yeah.
Like, so I think and your page you said it, you put this out there before, the branding part was big because what am I going back there for to make a video with him for with no brand?
No brand, right.
And I said, Bruce, 10, 12 minutes. I don't want to waste your time. I appreciate you doing this for me. 30 minutes.
30 minutes. That's great. You never know. Like you said, it was meant to be. It was on the same block. I mean, everything aligned. And that's a cool story. And that I think goes back to what I know we've really pounded this into the ground, but the branding is just, so important because you just never know who you're going to run into, who's going to wear your hat, who's going to wear your shirt, who's going to do a video with you. I mean, that's a hell of a story. That's a great way to wind things down.
Oh, and that day I walked in, Guy Fieri was texting him before I got there. He made it a point to mention that. And I was like, that's awesome.
Naturally. Right. He's on texting basis with Guy Fieri. That's awesome. I love that. So he's Greg Bleich, Bay Bridge BBQ. Make sure you guys look him up on YouTube, on Instagram. He's got great content, super down to earth, as you could already tell. And he's putting it out there. He's doing the deal. So Greg, we appreciate you coming on the show, man. Appreciate you reaching out.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.